What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne Yang with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Fake drone footage that appears to show a Taiwanese military base in detail has prompted officials in Taiwan to issue a warning about China's online cognitive warfare campaigns. Reese Ayers reports.
Stay vigilant against online propaganda is the message from officials here in Taiwan amid growing concerns that Chinese social media apps are hosting content that could be damaging to Taiwan's national security. A video posted on Red Note, known as Xiaohongshu in Chinese, appeared to show drone footage of a military base in Hualien on Taiwan's east coast. The defense minister has come out to say that the videos are digitally composed and that there was no evidence of drone activity at the time. But there's a bigger picture here. The defense minister said these images, even though faked, are part of Beijing's wider cognitive warfare campaign. For more on what those campaigns are, I spoke to Eric Xu from Double Think Lab, a civil society organization that focuses on researching Chinese influence operations and disinformation campaigns. I started by asking Eric what kind of content on Chinese social media platforms might be examples of Beijing's attempts to influence Taiwanese society.
It often uses something really soft and delicate strategy to achieve their goal. For example, it will using the contents to criticizing Taiwanese democratic system, or complaining Taiwanese life costing is too high, or the other kind of domestic issue, in order to trigger people's anxiety and anger and further distrust our system. The United Front work or information manipulation strategy on TikTok is mainly trying to reduce people's sensitivity to PRC threats and also their resistance ideas when facing invasion.
How are China's cognitive warfare campaigns evolving over time?
I think compared with several years ago, at that moment, they're still really focusing on creating misinformation or disinformation in order to convince people to trust something may not actually true. However, the strategy is slightly changed. It's using more what we call information manipulation strategy in order that the point is to trigger people's negative image and then to increasing the polarization among Taiwanese society. So, and eventually, when we distrust the system, it kind of achieves their goal.
Now, Taiwan is urging schools to have more and better media literacy classes for young people, something Eric also agreed with during our conversation, adding that people of all age need to be aware of content that makes you feel strong emotions, as that might be a video that's trying to manipulate you. Officials are also warning people to be generally aware of using Chinese software, not only because of the cognitive warfare campaigns, but also for data privacy reasons. With Red Note even having a surge in popularity in the United States when TikTok faced its ban there. Now, given these Chinese apps' popularity in Taiwan and the fact that China and Taiwan share a common language, there are fears that these platforms could be the ideal Trojan horse for Beijing to get its agenda into Taiwanese society. Alex Chen, Klein Wang, Chris Ma and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te has hailed the U.S. territory of Guam as a key bridge between Taipei and Washington. He made comments as he welcomed Guam's governor to the presidential office. As Rick Gower reports, the pair also tells of increased cooperation.
Here at Taiwan's presidential office in the heart of the capital, Taipei, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te is welcoming the governor of Guam, a U.S. territory in the Pacific. It's Governor Lu Leong Guerrero's first visit to Taiwan since she took office. The island of Guam, about 2,700 kilometers away, is the closest U.S. territory to Taiwan, and it's also home to one of the largest U.S. military bases in the region. While Taiwan and the U.S. do not have official diplomatic ties, a visit like this carries weight. Taiwan depends on the U.S.'s support to counter China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory and threatens to take by force. The U.S.'s deterrence in this region depends on the strategically located island of Guam.
I share the same belief that we, in collaboration, cooperation, and support, and working with each other, we can gain prosperity, continue our freedom and democracy, and live in peaceful, deserving life.
Lai and Guerrero highlighted shared Austronesian roots, cooperation in healthcare and education, and said they plan to boost tourism and flights between the two islands. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te has made bolstering ties with the Pacific a priority of his presidency. Last year, he spent a week visiting friends and allies there, including Guam, touting shared histories and values. This visit, another demonstration of how Lai is looking east towards the Pacific as he counters China's claims over his country. Eason Chen and Rick Lowett in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Elections for the next KMT chair are set for later this year, and speculation is growing over who could challenge incumbent Eric Zhu. Cadence Quaranta has more.
Months before Eric Zhu's term as head of Taiwan's main opposition Kuomintang is set to expire in October, speculation is mounting about who could take up the party's top spot. On Monday, Zhu told the United Daily News that he's looking forward to a smooth handover, an indication that he might be stepping down. He has not endorsed anyone else, but has said there are currently 4 outstanding KMT mayors. And he said this about Taichung Mayor Lu Xiuyan.
从大家每一次提到卢秀燕市长的时候，我都是很好非常欢迎诚挚欢迎。那我的心情就是希望能够顺利交棒。
Lu's name is often floated as a potential candidate, but she has not yet indicated whether or not she will run. When asked, she said this.
大家都知道，上班时间不谈政治，不谈选举，哈，谢谢大家。
There are a few others who have already declared their candidacies, including former Zhanghua County Magistrate Zhuo Boyuan, as well as the head of the KMT's Sun Yat-sen School. But one of those candidates has already said if Lu runs, he would support her instead.
卢市长如果出来选党主席，我觉得是众望所归啦。我会支持卢秀燕，但是他还没有决定，所以我不方便做任何的表态。我们要尊重他。
Other KMT mayors were also asked about the election. Taipei Mayor Jiang Wan'an avoided the question, while the mayor of Taoyuan said this.
我想这是他个人意愿，我们当然尊重啊。我想他应该在意指这个卢秀燕吧。
With the election still months away, there's still room for things to change. Neither candidates nor frontrunners are set in stone. But one thing seems clear, that Lu would have wide support for the position if she decides to run. Lian Lien and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
For more on the race for the next KMT chair and to find out what a new leader could mean for the party, Cadence Quaranta spoke to political risk analyst Ross Feingold.
What is the state of the KMT right now, and what challenges will the new KMT chair be facing?
The KMT is dealing with 2 significant issues at the moment. One is how to interact in the legislative yuan, where they combine with the Taiwan People's Party to have a majority. So the challenge they have there is how to interact with the executive yuan as well as the office of the president. The other big challenge facing the Kuomintang at the moment is the effort to recall many of their legislators, which efforts have seemed to have succeeded with the petition signature gathering process, which means many of their legislators are going to face a vote in the coming months to be recalled by the voters in their constituencies. So the new leader, or if Eric Zhu Li Lun continues as the leader, when they take office later this year, they're going to be dealing with the aftermath of that.
And it seems Taichung Mayor Lu Xiuyan has wide support for the position. Do you have any sense of what her stances on China and other key issues are?
She's very cautious in what she says about China issues. For no other reason than it hasn't really been necessary to do so while she's been mayor of Taichung. She also hasn't revealed whether or not she really wants to run for the party chairmanship. She's being very cautious, as Taiwan politicians tend to be in these situations. However, if she does declare her candidacy for chairman, I think she would have no choice but to say that she supports the 1992 consensus. That is the official position of the party. And the people who tend to vote in party chairman elections, the party members who are most enthusiastic about that kind of thing and are actually going to show up to vote.
What is your sense of the KMT's chances in future elections?
It's kind of hard to measure the support for the Kuomintang. I mean, there are surveys that often show that the Kuomintang or the DPP, their support levels are in the 20s or the high teens. These things tend to vary considerably. But then it really doesn't inform us how voters are going to vote in the local election in 2026. Because again, the Kuomintang, despite on a national level often seeming to be low in the polls, they've done very well in the last 2 local elections. So they probably should have some confidence that they'll do well again in the local elections. They seem to still have the network of local party organizations to boost their chances in that regard. And then let's not forget, 13 months after the 2026 local election, which will be November 2026, 13 months later, in January 2028, will be the next presidential and legislative election.
That was Ross Feingold on the upcoming KMT chair election. A growing number of women are enrolling in Taiwan's military schools as the number of men signing up shrinks. In some courses, there are now more women than men. John Van Trieste has more.
Women like these are growing more visible in Taiwan's military. The trend started in 2023 when the first women reservists started training, and it could be spreading to the officer corps. The number of women enrolling in military academies is growing relative to men and relative to expectations. This year, National Defense University hasn't followed its normal gender quota for admissions. Its engineering, political warfare, and management tracks all have more women and fewer men than expected. This isn't to say there's a gender balance across the board. Men outnumber women in engineering 2-1. But in one case, the management course, women have overtaken men, overshooting the gender quota by 210% in the process. As lawmakers wonder about this trend, the defense minister says the same standards apply to all students regardless of gender.
为什么男性那现在在报名军校，那会相对于女性少这么多呢？
采成绩的一个排序，择优来录取。我们也不认为女性的表现会比男性来的差。
Though it doesn't explain the drop in men's enrollment, one possible reason being floated for women's growing interest in military careers is the fact that it pays. Last month, the military raised pay for base-level officers and soldiers by up to $400 a month. Officials say the move has been especially helpful when it comes to holding on to personnel.
到目前为止，就是报退伍有600多个人抽回来，那不适服的部分也有87个，他已经报不适服，但是在加薪之后，他又把它抽回来。
Though not obligated like men to do military service, Taiwan's women are showing a growing commitment to playing a role in national defense. And what's begun at the bottom of the ranks shows signs of rising to higher levels. Howard Zhang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's environment minister says the government is not ruling out the use of new energy sources, but there are still 3 major challenges that need to be addressed first.
在台湾因为我们的地理条件很特殊，我们有地震，我们也有断层。那我们核废料到目前为止还没有一个妥善的一个处理。那甚至呢，这个民众的沟通的共识。
Peng Qiming was responding to questions about whether Taiwan might bring back nuclear energy. The country shut down its lost nuclear reactor earlier this month, a move that's raised concerns about the country's power supply. That gained even more traction when NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang suggested the government should consider reinvesting in nuclear power when he visited Taipei last week. Only 10% of Taiwan's publicly listed companies have committed to achieving the government's goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. That's according to environmental groups who are calling on companies to do more.
台塑四宝1年的用煤量已经接近中火的用煤量，台塑集团应该要优先来制定这些燃煤计划，不要再把这些污染变成他们的利润，然后让成本转嫁让社会大众来承担。
Activists spoke in Taipei as the country fires up more coal power generation to compensate for the recent shutdown of its lost nuclear reactor. The groups are calling for clearer government guidelines and want companies to set out solid carbon reduction goals for 2030. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow us on social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, let's head to Mexico for a 2-day festival celebrating cowboy culture. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, follow TaiwanPlus on socials. Pika!